We're talking financial literacy. We're talking back to school. We're talking mortgages. It's been a fantastic show this far, and we've doing something a little different this time. We're out in the street, and we're talking to people and asking them what their questions are, instead of it just being me all the time.
Oh, of course. Were we ever? And let me tell you, a lot of questions around rates and where are rates going.
Right.
Honestly, Dan, if I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be doing this show. I'd probably be retired already.
There we go.
But, I think we've been able to apply some good knowledge. And what are the economists saying? Where are the rates going? And, giving some good advice. But we still have a couple more.
Yeah, let's get to those questions. They're great questions.
Are housing prices going to decline, and by how much?
Ooh, this is a good one.
How many times a week do you get asked this question?
Our day. How many times a day do I get asked?
There you go.
I think anybody moving from Ontario, they think, okay, the prices are going down. Atlantic, we haven't seen it. Again, we've seen steady, if not an increase in our property values over the last even year and 2 years. While other markets like Ontario and BC have really seen a decline, partially because the demand here in Atlantic and in Halifax and in Nova Scotia has been higher than the supply. So it's still been increasing the amount of the property value. So right now our values are going up about 3%. So I don't think we're ever going to see a decline here. The demand still has become more. The one thing, we're certainly still doing some construction, but we're not doing enough. So I think it's going to take a long time for us to even really rebalance the market.
There is a belief out there, Clinton, that the market is overinflated. And I know we've talked about this a couple of times during this edition of Mortgage 101, that during that boom time when property values during the pandemic were going through the roof, that it got too hot too quick. You don't think that's the case?
I don't think so. Here we kind of right-sized our real estate. And right now, I think our average price is about 608 or so. And these are just like very close numbers. But it's still some of the lowest cost real estate in the country. As much as we think our real estate is very expensive, we have done better in terms of affordability than our neighbors in Canada. So, hats off to us. We've maintained our economy, and our real estate prices have increased, but not to a level that, other areas of Canada have.
We know that we're in a bit of a housing crunch here, particularly in HRM, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to take a look around and see all the cranes in the air. Most of that construction now is apartment rentals.
Yes.
Not a lot of condos. There's a few, but most of it's apartment rentals. You said that we're not building a lot of single detached homes these days.
Not enough.
Do you think that if we ever get back into balance with the housing situation, that we'll get back to that we'll get back to single family homes?
I think we definitely will. I would say even going into 2026, Dan, we will. It's initiative from the federal government. Like, we need more housing units, and we were really underserviced in terms of rentals. But now we have a huge number, hundreds and hundreds of units that are coming online here in Halifax, and we're going to right-size the rentals. I've heard stats that even the cost of rentals has started to come down. So the average cost for a 2-bedroom apartment in Halifax was about $2,500, but now I think it's just under $2,500. So we're starting to edge down.
And they're also starting to offer incentives. I had a conversation with the Landlords Association a week or so ago, and they said that there's the occupancy rate is starting to fall. And that renormalize is probably the best way to describe that. And some of the new construction buildings are seeing that and are offering incentives. So it's something that we haven't seen since 2019, 2018, that you're getting a month freeze rent and those kind of things.
So, I think a normal vacancy rate in terms of rentals is probably somewhere between 3 and 5%. We were somewhere around 0 in Halifax. That is not sustainable. And that means that, we could see it. I see it, on Wise Road. There's people that are unhomed. It's not just, and some of these unhomed folks, they're actually working. They just can't afford a place because, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you could get a basement apartment for $500 a month or rent a room. That doesn't exist anymore because that cost of housing has gone up. And although these units that are coming on are not affordable units, these are expensive, nice luxury units that are starting. But I think what will happen is people will move into these units, get their incentives, whatever they need to do, and then some of the lower quality, lower cost, more affordable units will then open up, and it will help renormalize everything, including people that want to buy a home. Because, that little old man or the little old lady, they might have sold their home 5 years ago if they had a place to rent. They didn't.
They need a place to go, right?
Everybody does.
The Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives earlier this month released its annual look at incomes in HRM, $29.40 an hour in order to live, not well, but in order to live,
survive.
in HRM. And that's a staggering number.
So that's somewhere around $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that's for an individual. A household, maybe the number might be a little bit less. But that is a lot of money, and the incomes have not paced as fast as the cost of housing. And I'm not just talking about buying real estate, but I'm talking about rent, everything. Right. They've not paced.
We have one more question left, I do believe.
What's the best way to save my money?
I think we saved the best for last. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this was a little kid that asked me this question, and I love this one. And this is a great time for parents to talk to their kids around back to school. Financial literacy. Kids are not learning this in school. Adults are not learning this in school. So it's a great time to have these conversations over the weekend at the dinner table. And I think these conversations really start at home. And getting a regular savings plan is really important. For adults that are working, I love automating it, Dan. A lot of people get paid every 2 weeks, twice a month. Set up a pre-authorized payment for the day that your payroll goes in.
You miss it the first month, and then you don't miss it anymore.
You don't miss it. It renormalizes. I would focus on RRSP and tax-free and then get a really good plan together. Oftentimes people have a lot of room in both of those products. Make it automatic and just get it set up. Obviously, if you're a kid, you're not having an RRSP or a TFSA, but maybe it's starting with just a simple savings plan. Maybe if you're getting an allowance, and I don't know what allowances are, Dan, but, if it's $20 a week or something, maybe you're putting $5 a week away. You have to start somewhere, but make it automatic. Do it, live by it, and don't touch it. Make it hard enough that it's going to you need a couple days to be able to touch that. You know what I mean? And I find people that dip into their savings, they just make it too easy. You can just debit off or credit rate off of your savings account. You need to make it more automatic and a little bit more regimented that you just can't get at it.
And we've been talking about back to school through this entire episode, and there are savings plans for education for your kids, which they recommend you start right away.
Maybe when they are born.
Right when they're born or even before. That being said, good opportunity to not only do that, but to kick a little aside, teach your kids how to save some money, and then maybe down the line they'll have enough to get that first house like you did in university.
Yeah, of course. I think that a child has to be born, and they also need to have a SIN number before you can set up an RESP. Right. But an RESP is a great way to put money away for a future, for a child to be able to go and do their education. And I think sometimes parents think, well, what happens if my kid doesn't go to school? What happens to this money? Well, it's still the parents' money. You may not get the money that the government put in, but you'll get the money that you put in at least. And again, make it automatic. I have people that I work with that have kids, and they just put their baby bonus in every month, like their child tax benefit. Yeah. They don't even see the money. They're just putting it right into this RESP to enable these kids to have that choice. Just like the cost of housing is high, the cost of education is high too.
Insane.
And kids, without some help, I think these days, it is very tough to enter the workforce, enter the housing market, enter the education stream.
Right.
It's very, very tough without some help.
And, it wasn't like when you and I went to school where it was, everything's relative, but tuitions are much higher now than they were back more than 5 years ago when we went.
Or 25 years ago or more, maybe. Right. It certainly has changed. It's the same with housing. Everything has gone up. So, I think sometimes it's a decision on what the best path is forward, and that is tough. But make a plan, stick to the plan, and make that plan automatic.
Boy, this was fun, Clinton. We should do this again.
I think we could do it for another hour. Time flies when you're having fun, I think.
Absolutely. Lots of really great information in there. I'm glad you let me sit in this month. And I guess the bottom line is that back to school is a fun time. It's a scary time for many, and that's outside of the finances. But if you take care of things early, then maybe not as scary when your kids eventually go to school.
Definitely. And I think it's a lot of friction for people, Dan, but I always like going into the fall. It feels like it is a new season, even though it is just September. And, for anybody who wants to check out our show, you can certainly check us out on teamclinton.ca/radio. We have hundreds of blog posts on my website. There's links to our Spotify, Apple Music, and you can see what Dan and I look like.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this edition of Mortgage 101. We're back next month. Take care.
If you've liked what you've heard and you want to learn more, feel free to visit us online at teamclinton.ca.